the show actually gets started. We've got the space live on X right now. We're getting Facebook called up. And my good technical expert Nick assures me that we will be on Facebook very, very soon. And then hopefully we'll be branching out from there. Are we also on YouTube still?
Yes.
Okay, so we're on Facebook, YouTube, and we should be on TikTok here pretty quick. So I'm not a fan of Facebook. Remember, they turned over all of my data to the FBI, so I view them as an adjunct to the government and as just another intelligence collection source of the FBI. Anyway, on that kind of subject, so I did actually get to sleep in on Saturday until 7. It was kind of crazy. Usually at 7 I'm at my church with a group of men, but this Saturday I went to the Republican Party's Legislative Priority Conference, which we will cover in a bit. So I'm still not seeing anybody in the space, making me feel very, very lonely. All right, there's Dr. A. Dr. A, I've sent you a co-host invite. Michelle, welcome. And Dr. A, I'm not hearing you right now, but it may be that that's not dialed up, so give it just a second. Okay. All right, Dr. A, I've got you coming up. All right, it says you can speak now, but let me get you a co-host invite.
Yeah, I never saw the invite, but it doesn't put my hand up.
All right, resending. Okay, it says co-host invite sent, so bear with us as we get these technical difficulties ironed out. Everybody please repost the space. We'll get that going. So, how was your week? Dr. A? Nope, you dropped a listener again. That's not good. All right. Here we go. All right, I see the request. Okay, this is ridiculous. 1 second. All right, it says. All right, so it says you're co-host now. So we should have you good. All right, so how was your week? Ah, isn't it nice? So you had your first week of political attacks. Doesn't that feel good? Now, were they based in truth, or let me guess, are you a, how would I attack you? I would attack you as a health nut, somebody that's not serious. Yeah, I got told that. He tried to ignore me as often as he could. Like I said, he told me a couple of days before the election that he was up 35 points and he was just publicizing my mugshot to mess with me. So anyway, I do want to say that it gets a little easier. You get kind of used to it. By the time he did that, I was so used to his lies that I got over it. He tried to say that I was a nobody, and it just baffles my mind how somebody that has done nothing in his life other than live off the public body politic like a leech or a tick on a dog, could say that a guy that has been to war for the country has done nothing. A guy that stood up for President Trump while he was busy changing his mind and supporting DeSantis or Abbott against President Trump, did nothing. Again, I tell you, I'm still not over losing to this guy, and it's because he's just a pathetic man. I mean, everything that I was raised to believe in, that a man is strong, courageous, does the right thing even when it's going to cost him, he doesn't do any of those things. He's just a horrid, horrid person. And even this weekend, okay, so, at the County Republican Priorities Convention, it's normal for legislators to show up. As a matter of fact, our state senator showed up. He showed up at a few different county conventions because a state senator represents multiple counties. Imagine that. And we had Richard Hayes, who's not really in our district where the convention was being held, but he's in the county, show up. Andy Hopper showed up at a different county because he represents both Denton County and Wise County. And yet this guy didn't show up. Now, why didn't he show up? Because he's a coward. And he knows what's going to happen when he shows up. He would have been booed. Now, personally, I wanted him to show up because I was ready to record it. That way we could corner him. And when I say corner him, that video of Cornyn being booed at the Republican Party of Texas has been shared over and over and over again. So, Dr. A, are you going to have any candidate forums or debates with your actual opponent?
I honestly don't know. I had somebody send me an invite, but it's not a serious invite to do a gathering. I just don't know. I don't know if the county is organized enough. Part, I know the party's not organized enough. And the incumbent doesn't take any of us seriously. He just wants to, it's not like we're government of the shoes.
Yeah.
But yet, the constituents don't feel like he is serving their needs. So I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing and figure out, how do you know when something is a legit request or something that isn't?
Well, again, I had the good fortune of relying on precinct chairs that were helping me out that have been in the game for a long time. And again, my wife has been in the game politically pretty much her entire life. She worked for a state senator. She worked for a state representative. She helped get another guy elected. So she knew what to do and what not to do. And I'll be honest with you, I'd probably get like 2% if it wasn't for her expertise. So, again, I'm not just saying that to suck up to my wife. Well, so what is it that you think is not legit? What is it that you think is not legitimate? That you said somebody had invited you to something that you don't think it's legitimate. That's a little different. Now, I mean, you can do what I did, which was basically throw the gauntlet. You saw when I waved the white feather in here and told him he was a coward because he wouldn't debate. But that's just a matter of how what you think would actually be effective. This guy, he just uses money. He's living proof that he can't actually buy an election. $1.684 million. So, yeah. Okay. Well, that's not going to work. Now, surely the Republican Party or the city, like I went to 2 candidate forums. One was put on by Prestonwood Baptist Church and the other by the city of the Colony for their residents. So, again, both myself and then the third candidate in the race showed up and, the incumbent did not. So, I don't know, Dr. A, clearly you don't have a campaign manager. And I understand how hard that is to actually get something done without it, when you don't have the funding. But I was fortunate in that I had a campaign manager. She just didn't want to do the job. No, but she did a fantastic job. She just didn't want to do it. But I mean, it was so funny because she's like, I do not want to do this. And I'm like, show me where we have the money to buy someone to do it. Anyway, so
May I?
Go ahead.
May I?
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, Dr. A, this is Nick. Can I give you 2 recommendations? Great. 1, anytime you speak, make sure you are mic'd and recording. and definitely get it recorded, okay? If you have an iPhone, the iPhone will shoot in 1080p and 4K. That's all you need. Go get a DJI mic or a mic puck that's wireless. Anytime you speak, that is content. And that's content that can be used over and over and over again. Second thing is a 3-2-1 strategy. You go live talking about different things that are going on, your 3 top things every day. You go live and talk about those. You post 2 videos, and then you do 1 photo or 1 text prompt to create engagement.
By the way, Nick ran the marketing campaign for the online marketing campaign for me. He did a great job. So
No. Is
give
it
him a call afterwards. Yeah,
okay?
I'll make sure he has your number.
Great. Yeah. Let me help.
All right. It is 10:56. Let's go over the rules, and then we've got the usual question. Tap, I tried to pass you a mic, but I get that you're probably working. So the rules are: don't talk over each other, no profanity, and then if you go too long, we'll ding you, which we haven't had to do in a while. All right. The question for the day is: do you have any Easter traditions? And you know, Dr. A, you and I don't have kids in the house anymore, so you may have to harken back to when you did, but I'll begin with you. So what were your Easter traditions?
Nice.
Awesome. All right. So for us, it began with dyeing eggs a couple of days prior. I would say Wednesday or Thursday. So we would dye eggs, and then one time, I'll take the blame for it. An egg was accidentally left in too long, and it became black. You know, because it went to multiple colors, and so that became the tradition of the Judas egg. So we always had a black egg with like horns and evil and like 666 written on it, and so we always had a Judas egg. Then, you know, my parents, my dad and stepmom have always lived on a golf course, and the golf course, you know, the little association there has usually had Easter egg hunts, so we played in that, or the churches that I went to, you know, had, you know, Easter egg hunts, so we would go there and obviously do that, and then we would hide the eggs that we had boiled, as well as, you know, the usual plastic eggs with some candy in them around. And then, of course, on Sunday morning, they would go and find the Easter basket. We would also hide the Easter basket and leave them clues on a couple of times, and then head over to families for the traditional ham on Easter Sunday. So, you know, that's what we did, and I think we're headed over to my mom's and stepdad's on this coming Sunday. I will say, just very briefly, my mom's going into surgery in about 30 minutes, so please pray for her. All right, so that's kind of our Easter traditions. What about you, Nick? You've got a passel full of young girls. So what are your Easter traditions?
So, one, we definitely do the Easter egg hunt at Elevate Life Church. Like
Right.
that's just that is locked in. I think this year, not the girls a little bit older, we are going to start doing the hidden Easter basket, and my wife is real big about doing. Like you get a little hint in a little sentence, and then you gotta go find it. You find the next little hint. I don't know what those are called.
Yeah, I don't treasure hunt.
Let's just roll with that.
And so yeah, that's what my mom did to me, and I did that to my kids a couple of times. So yeah, I'm totally on board with that. All right, everybody, it is 10:59, and we are 1 minute from starting. So as usual, we'll jump the gun and get started. But there's a saying in the Air Force that the briefing starts when the flight lead's ready. So I'm ready. All right, this is the Reckoning, 30 March 2026, show number 319, and 1 hour of unfiltered political truth starts now. It's always interesting to me to look at 2 separate days which produce dramatically different results. On Friday, there were 2 competing candidate forums in my city to determine the mayor. Now, one occurred at Elevate Life Church, an energetic, muscular Christian church, and the other at a mosque, which worships the demon Muhammad, may war be upon him. Now, 3 of the candidates chose to bend the knee to Islam and go to their forum rather than the Christian church, yet all 4 profess to be Christians. As the Bible says, you will know them by their fruit. So on Friday, I observed 3 losers disqualify themselves because of their collaboration with an enemy that seeks to undermine our constitutional republic. Not a good day. Yet on Saturday, I watched a room of over 50 conservatives put forward as their first legislative priority a very strong anti-Islamic measure. And I'd like to read it at this point. The state of Texas recognizes Islamism as a hostile political system and not a religion. No Texas funds shall in any way support Islam or any Islamic charity or mosque. No representative loyal to this hostile political system shall hold any public office in the state. In accordance with the Constitution of the United States or the state of Texas and or Texas statutes, no taxing entity or subdivision or homeowners association shall be incorporated or operated in the state of Texas which seeks to regulate itself or order itself under a system of contrary laws or which is under its control or oversight. The legislature shall enact legislation to ban the Islamic financial instruments of the Waqf and Zakat under color of religion. The oppression and or abuse of women and children shall not be tolerated. Therefore, the legislature shall create laws that ban the burqa, hijab, niqab, and abaya in public spaces due to security concerns. No Texas school shall observe Islamist holidays, nor shall they provide halal food to their students. Texans will not pay for the private education of Islamists. The legislature shall be directed to provide resources and legislation to hold criminally accountable any practitioners of Sharia law in the state of Texas. Now, you may wonder why the word Islamism as opposed to Islam. This came on the recommendation of a senatorial staffer to try and protect the legislation from the ravages of the federal judiciary by delineating a difference between Islam and Islamism. Splitting hairs, I know, but those are the things sometimes on which legal cases turn. Now, there's also a provision, as I read, to prohibit any Muslim from holding any political office in the state of Texas. This needs to be acted on swiftly by the legislature, and we need to eliminate 2 representatives that are already there. To the FBI agent listening, that means politically eliminate them, you moron. So what do I think will happen in this legislative session? I got to be honest with you. I think we're going to get governed good and hard, exactly the way we don't want. After reading the interim charges in the Texas House put forward by the Speaker, I see the establishment wing of the Republican Party fighting back against the grassroots that actually make the party work. I see the same lies already streaming from politicians' mouth that we always hear. Well, we just can't do anything about property taxes. We can't stop the H-1B fraud. That's a federal issue. The leadership in the House are a bunch of do-nothing uniparty hacks. And we didn't remove them at the ballot box. In fact, we re-elected 3 of them who were censured. Now, as a result of these losses, there is one conservative organization which has basically said they're going to do what Cartman always threatens to do. Screw you guys, and killing him. So they're basically taking their ball and going home. Now, as much as I understand that sentiment, given the fact that the legislators that we elect honestly have done nothing that we've told them to do, we just simply can't do that. In politics, you can't take your ball and go home. The costs are too high. Now, I'm trying to be an optimist. I really am. But I'm telling you, it's getting more and more difficult as I think a lot of people are going to take their ball and go home. But then I remember how dark New York City was, how crime-ridden before Mayor Giuliani came in and saved the day. I remember how bad the country was, how bad the inflation was, how low we felt before the great Ronald Reagan came to be president. I remember the evil of the illegitimate and criminal Biden regime and the optimism that we all felt just a few years ago when President Trump was elected for a 3rd time. Now, there's still 2 years for him to right the ship. But I got to tell you, I don't think the second Trump administration has delivered on the promise that we voted for. But what's the alternative? If you stay home, A party that is absolutely in league with Satan takes power. A party that not only wants to abort your children, the ones that survive their abortion factories, they want to trans them. A party that wants to destroy our society, destroy our culture by making league with pedophile worshiping Mohammedans. No to them. No forevermore. I say this is the road to war because there are those of us who do not stand with you, and we will not let you take our country over. We will not bend the knee to your tyranny. We will honor our Constitution, and we will prevail. It's just a matter of time. All right, Dr. A, do you have anything on the rant there? And is Islam an issue in your campaign, or is that a Texas-specific thing? Okay, you bring up a good point. Why did the three of them go? Now, all right, we as Christians have dropped the ball and we have failed. We have got to translate the power of the pulpit to the power at the ballot box. The Mohammedans do that. They came out and voted in mass, and they elected a city council member that is going to help them approve another mosque in Frisco. Okay, again, we don't do that. When is the last time, and I'm going to tell you, for me, the last time was exactly 8 days ago, that you heard your preacher stand up and say, if you are not standing up for Christian values at the ballot box, you are absolutely wrong. A great commercial I saw, I want to say in either 2012 or 2016, was put out by the Catholic Church. And it said that your vote will be counted and you will answer for it in eternity when you're standing before Jesus Christ. I could not agree with that even more. You cannot, in good conscience, vote for the Democrats. Go ahead. Agreed, but that requires pastors to actually be brave, and yet I watch men like the pastor of Gateway Church, Max Lucado, embrace John Cornyn, saying, well, I just can't get behind Senator Paxton's values because Senator Paxton was allegedly in an adulterous relationship. Well, let's talk about Senator Cornyn. He is allegedly had a homosexual affair with a staffer that got covered up by the Senate slush, the sexual harassment slush fund. And who are they to think that they can actually have a sexual harassment slush fund kept private from the American taxpayer who is paying for their sexual harassment slush fund? The mere fact that that even exists, that crime is covered up, is just absolutely tells you everything you need to know about our modern government. Unbelievable. All right. No. The fact that they covered up the rape of children on Epstein Island, now they cover up, again, I don't think our founding fathers would like this government even a little bit. I went through last week the reasons that we declared war on the king. And I got to tell you, this is just wrong when you have this little representation in Congress. Again, they're basically 535 leeches. All right. Welcome, Southern. Glad to have you back. I know we haven't talked in a while. We're about to move on to the next topic, but I just wanted to ask how have your couple of weeks been, and then, you getting ready for Easter with your little guy, what are you going to be doing? All right, awesome. All right, for those of you that, yeah, you bet. All right, so for those of you that have followed the show for a while, I've talked about what are called RMAs, Revolutions in Military Affairs. And we saw in Ukraine the drones becoming an RMA, Revolution in Military Affairs. Well, the next one is about to hit. And so, Nick, if you could cue up, are you ready? All right, we're playing a video behind us. I want you to watch it just briefly. And it shows some robots that are in China right now. Now, this is the latest reminder that the battlefields of Eurasia will increasingly be large swaths of land, miles deep, effectively dominated by a new kind of warfare. Either FPVs, first-person view robots, or autonomous ground robots operating with AI kill chains. In Ukraine right now, you're seeing a no-go zone stretching for 15 miles and already means a quick death for any biological soldier due to the FPV, first-person viewer. I'm going to call them kill devices, which are able to detect, track, and strike them. Now, China likes to flex its dual-use robotic ground systems, and this footage shows that they have quadruped machines, basically robot wolves, with machine guns mounted on top being trained for street battles. Now, the system comes from a company called Southwest Automation Institute, which has long-standing ties to the People's Liberation Army. They call it a 100% indigenously designed and 100% domestically produced Terminator, essentially. Now, what's interesting is they are actually listing a non-military version for sale for $73,500. So the fact that they put out what is it going to cost got me to thinking, well, what does it cost to train an infantryman? So informal estimates for a fully trained regular infantryman, I'm talking your basic 11 Bravo, for those of us in the know, that's the Army operation code for an infantryman, averages from a high school student to a fully trained infantryman between $60,000 and $80,000 to train him. Now, the higher end infantrymen, such as a ranger, street to a regiment ranger, is about $100,000 to $150,000. Now, this is based off statistics from the Rand Corporation. So that got me to asking, well, what does it cost to train an F-35 pilot? Orders of magnitude more. All right. So, according to Rand Corporation, using 2018 data, so we're talking really 8 years ago. So, put on whatever inflationary factor, but it was $10 million to train a fighter pilot. I remember being told in, I guess, 1994, when I became an instructor pilot, that the Air Force, to train an instructor pilot, it's roughly $15 million. And when you think about it, that counts each flight hour, which is about, I think for an A-10, and it's unbelievably cheap, like $8,000 a flight hour compared to other things. Welcome, Jim. Good to see you. Welcome, Gen X. Welcome, Tap. All the usuals. Glad to have you guys. Grab a mic if you want. So, economic war is a reality. And so you're seeing a cheaper way, probably, of being a force multiplier. If I've got an Army soldier that can control multiple wolves through either FPV or AI, most likely a combination of both, moving forward, that's outstanding. In the same way that the Air Force talked about manned-unmanned teaming. In other words, instead of flying over a target and dropping bombs, all right, on the target, I just stand off and tell my drones to go drop bombs on them. So again, this is becoming more and more of a reality. All right, and you're seeing that right now, that the United States is playing economic war, in that we have now placed the ultimate fighter aircraft ever invented, period, the A-10, which has an eternal life almost, second only to Jesus Christ, and AH-64 is at the Straits of Hormuz. As a matter of fact, I know Revelations says that he's coming back on a white horse, but it could be a white A-10. I'm just saying. All right, so... No, I'm pretty sure he would, because he's all about effectiveness. All right, but anyway, I digress. So you see the A-10 and the AH-64 Apache operating in the Strait of Hormuz. Mm-hmm. Now, guys, I want you to think back to the movie The Terminator. Remember the HKs, the hunter-killers? We're getting closer to that actually happening. Mm-hmm. And you're saying, oh, that can't happen. I'm telling you, I remember I think it's called MITRE. I remember a couple of contracts that I saw that went to, or from MITRE to various companies to build a humanoid Terminator and a feline type Terminator. And so it wouldn't surprise me if we have something far more advanced than this already, because usually the Chinese steal from us. So if you think about it, imagine a division of these dogs set to patrol the Islamic world and terminate all adult males. You're saying that can't happen? Why couldn't it? I mean, if they can look at a thing and basically guess the age. I mean, think about when you went to Six Flags Over Texas as a child here, they had some contest where they would either guess your age within like 3 years or your weight within 10 pounds. So again, I bet you, using AI and facial recognition, they could pretty much tell what age you are and decide that you're just going to terminate any male over 18. Now, would that mean that all the men would wear a burqa or a hijab to try and hide? Again, I just was thinking about second order effects here. So basically, you're looking at a situation where you're going to see bloodless war from the more technologically advanced society. And I think the U.S. public would be pretty pleased with that, except for those with TDS. Go ahead, Dr. A. Yeah, absolutely. No, again, this is just something to watch. Now, sorry, we're lagging the fight a little bit, but we did get a comment from Brian. He said that pastors won't talk about this in church. Preachers are scared. Sorry, I want them to talk about what's happening and pray for our president and country every week. Again, that's a good thing. But remember the tax code, although I think I heard that there was a change in the tax code, but used to prohibit them from taking sides in a partisan manner. But I think that just recently changed, and that might be why the church is getting more and more active. All right. Correct. All right, go ahead, Nick, and then I'll come to you, Southern.
So that actually happened in July of 2025. The IRS reinterpreted the tax code regarding churches and politics, allowing houses of worship to endorse candidates and discuss political matters during service without losing their 501c3 tax exemption status. Good call on that.
All right, what about you, Southern? Was that what you were going to say, or? Okay. Hey, Southern, I got a question for you. Are you spinning up for the trial that's coming up, or what's going on in your world? The trial of the guy that murdered the student here in lovely Frisco. Okay, all right. Well, we'll cover that in more detail as we get there. All right, so let's stick with war for a little bit, and let's talk about the Pentagon considering weeks of ground operations. Now, according to Iran's Speaker of their parliament, curiously named Mohammed, like all the rest of them, Mohammed Ghalibaf, soon to be dead Mohammed Ghalibaf, the man who many believe is de facto running the country during wartime, he said that the United States is busy planning a ground attack despite publicly engaging in diplomatic efforts aimed at finding a ceasefire. I don't know that we're necessarily engaging in diplomatic efforts, but we'll get to that in a second. Now, WAPO, again, consider the source, a newspaper known to lie, says that he's right. It says that the Pentagon is preparing for weeks of ground operations in Iran. Now, what we have seen is that we are seeing special forces deploy. We've seen the 82nd Airborne deploy over there. So we are seeing actual boots that could be put on the ground deployed over there. Now, what I'm hoping is that any potential ground operation would be not a full-scale invasion, but I'm going to say it raids designed to assist us in either toppling the regime or acquiring things we want, like their enriched uranium. Now, there are countries that are meeting in Islamabad, so in Pakistan, good God, imagine the smell, all right, to try and forge a path towards ceasefire and peace. The 4 foreign ministers representing Pakistan, Turkey, Egypt, and Saudi Arabia began consultations Sunday. All right, the Pakistani government said that its prime minister, curiously named, what? what are they all named? Muhammad is working to create a conducive environment for peace negotiations and direct talks between Tehran and Washington. All right, yeah, I don't want peace with them. At this point, I want regime change. I want them gone. So the last 48 hours saw the U.S. and Israel attacking universities of science and technology in the northeast of the capital. Buildings were severely damaged. All right, but reports of casualties haven't emerged. Now, the IRGC, the Republican Guard, has put out a statement urging Iranian staff, faculty, and students to vacate and stay away from American campuses in the Gulf, namely Texas A&M University in Qatar and New York University in the UAE. Now, I'm hopeful that this is just the art of the deal. You know, us deploying soldiers there, and that he's just ratcheting up the pressure to hopefully get peace. But the problem with war is, once the fuse is lit, it's sometimes difficult to put the fire out, all right? In the big scheme of things, the neocons finally got what they wanted all along from President Trump, war with Iran. Lady Lindsay got her war after all. We're going to get killed in the midterms due to this war and the lack of real change in Washington. There has been no accountability for the crimes of 2020, no real change in Washington. The Uniparty just keeps rolling right along. Nothing is being done to make America great again. The forever wars continue. They continue to just deficit spend us into oblivion. I hope you saw the tweet by Elon Musk this weekend, which showed the growth in the national debt with red, blue, red, blue, red, blue. It's revolting. Go ahead, Tap. I know, Tap. I know. We do miss you. I know you're busy working. Got to put food on the table for the family. And speaking of food, what happens when there's no fertilizer? All right. Well, we're about to find out. Now, there's a saying that has been attributed to Vladimir Ilyich Lenin that every society is 3 missed meals away from chaos, revolution, or anarchy. Chairman Mao, may war be upon him, actually said that, you know, a revolution is not a dinner party. Now, he was justifying homicide by saying that. Here's the problem, all right? You know, I remember a saying that, you know, snows do melt in the spring. I think it was Mark Antony was warning the Senate, you know, because the Senate was saying, well, Caesar's army is north of the Alps, and he won't come south. And Antony told them, snows do melt. Well, spring is here, which means that the seeds that were planted last winter, and I'm talking actual food, not metaphorical seeds, all right, are starting to germinate. These seeds are now hungry, and they will only grow to their full nutritional potential if they're well fed. What's required to feed them? Fertilizer, nitrates, all right? It's not happening because fertilizer supplies have been interrupted by yet another Middle East war. The result, global food shortages are going to happen. And they may dwarf the COVID-era Costco hoarding of recent memory. Now, it's called the nitrogen trap, and I posted it in the link beneath it. It is a long article, and I have read most of it. I've got to go back and finish the paragraphs that I didn't. But I want to talk about this trap for a second. It says 3 locks have snapped shut simultaneously. And that is because the planting window has closed behind us. And the food the world eats next year is now being decided by molecules that cannot reach the soil of these plants right now. All right, so what is Lock 1? Lock 1 was the Strait of Hormuz. The IRGC permission corridor allows oil tankers from friendly nations to pay 2 million in yuan and pass. It does not allow fertilizer to pass at any price. 0 approved fertilizer transits have occurred in the last 24 days. Now, the Gulf supplies 49% of the world's exported urea and roughly 30% of traded ammonia. Okay, that supply is not delayed, it's been denied. The gate opens for molecules that fund the gatekeeper. It stays closed for molecules that feed the planet. Lock number 2, Russia. Russia is the world's largest exporter of ammonium nitrate, all right? And it halted all ammonium nitrate exports until after April 21st. Now, 3 to 4 million tons a year are now gone from the global markets at the exact moment the Northern Hemisphere needs it most. Now, the official reason is domestic priority, but probably it's leverage from a strategic perspective. Russia earns windfall revenue from the oil price spike as a result of the war. Then it removes the fertilizer that farmers need to plant through the crisis. The disease and the cure from the same address again. And lock number 3 is China. Beijing has now banned exports of nitrogen-potassium blends and phosphate fertilizers through August of 2026. China is the world's largest phosphate producer and a major nitrogen supplier. The ban removes the last alternative source that could have compensated for both the Strait of Hormuz being closed and Russia deciding not to supply fertilizer. 3 locks, 3 countries, 3 deliberate decisions timed to the same biological counter to hurt the United States and its allies. Now, I've got to ask, how did we let 3 of the most hostile nations on Earth become the primary suppliers of fertilizer? We really need a little bit better strategic planning. Now, I've got some good news on that in a little bit, but let's keep rolling. All right. The problem is the biological calendar doesn't negotiate. Corn requires nitrogen right now at its growth stage, or the kernel set is permanently reduced. Wheat requires tillering and jointing, or grain fill collapses. All right. Rice requires it at transplanting, or the yield drops 20 to 40% in low input systems. These aren't economic models, they're cellular processes. They won't negotiate with us. The plant either receives the nitrogen it needs during the window or it doesn't. If it doesn't, no subsequent application, no price increase, no policy reversal can recover what was lost. The damage is written into the biology of the seed. Basically, the world is screwed. Now, the U.S. Corn Belt window closes mid-April. European top dressing of its plants is happening now. Indian kharif preparation begins in May. Bangladeshi rice transplanting is underway this week. Every one of these windows is closing while the 3 largest sources of nitrogen on Earth are simultaneously locked. Now, the USDA has a prospective plantings report due tomorrow. The FAO Food Price Index publishes on April the 3rd. Anecdotally, I will tell you that when we went to the store this weekend, everything was about 5 to 10% higher. I don't know if you guys have felt the same thing, but it's going to get worse. So these will quantify what the molecules already know. The nitrogen did not arrive. The yield is locked in. The 5 to 10% global drag will concentrate where the buffers are thinnest, meaning Bangladesh, Sub-Saharan Africa, South Asia, where a 20% shortfall does not mean lower profits or increased costs, it means hunger and starvation. Now, Sri Lanka is an excellent case test for what happens. They banned their synthetic fertilizer in 2021 and the rice yields collapsed 40%. As a result, the government fell. In 2008, fertilizer and oil spiked simultaneously and food riots erupted across 30 countries. In 2026, the strait blocking the fertilizer and Russia and China withdrawing the alternatives and the planting window closing is going to leave the planet with nowhere to turn. You are going to see massive unrest in 6 to 12 months due to food insecurity. Now, we've spent 50 years and hundreds of billions of dollars building our strategic petroleum reserves so that no geopolitical rupture could sever our modern civilization from our energy requirement. The United States alone holds just over 400 million barrels of crude oil in salt caverns beneath the Gulf Coast. No country, however, maintains a fertilizer reserve system remotely comparable in scale, doctrine, or strategic importance to the petroleum reserve architecture built after the shocks of the 1970s. Today's policy response to the Hormuz crisis is not a nutrient release of our reserves. It is an improvised attempt to rebuild shipping and insurance capacity on the fly. So this is asymmetrical warfare in action again. Our enemies, Iran, Russia, and China, know where to hurt us. So how is it going to impact the world? You just heard me say 5 to 10%. It estimates that 49% of global urea exports, 30% of global ammonia exports, and nearly half of all global sulfur trade have stopped. We're seeing immediate price responses across all nitrogen products, all right, with prices surging 25 to 44% within 2 weeks since the offset. All right, so to make matters worse, Ukrainian drones have recently been striking, and I'm going to miss this, the Neven-Nomisk Azot plant in Stavropol Krai. I can't believe I said that. And from export quotas capping their shipping at 18.7 million tons. So Russian supply is flowing to Brazil, India, and China, but not at volume sufficient to offset Gulf disruption. Now, here's the good news for the United States. The United States produces approximately 65 to 75% of the fertilizer it consumes from abundant domestic natural gas. Many American farmers pre-ordered in autumn 2025 and have supplies for the first spring application. Now, there is a banking analysis that notes that commodity shocks are honestly short-lived right now, and there's a guy that said he only expects a small near-term impact. There are other people that have said that 85 to 90% of the product already warehoused in the upper Midwest will be used. So there is the $12 billion Farm Bridge Assistance Program that dispersed $6 million already, all right, and it will help our farmers navigate through a crisis on what they consider to be about 70% of its major crop acres. Now, that's the good news. But you got to think, when you get to things like nitrogen, ammonia, sulfur, there are other things that rely on them for manufacture. For example, all right, our pharmaceutical supply chain. A large amount of our pharmaceutical feedstocks and reagents, all right, are petrochemical derived and come from India, which produces roughly 20% of global generic drugs by volume. And they supply approximately 40% of the U.S. generic drug demand, and they are one of the countries that is being hit the hardest. All right, so I want to read this one paragraph because it went through 14 linked paragraphs. I just read the fourth one, which was the drugs. These channels do not operate independently. They interact, amplify, and interfere with one another in patterns that linear analysis cannot capture. Sulfur shortages constrain phosphate production, which elevates phosphate prices, which incentivizes Chinese export restrictions, which tighten global phosphate supply further, which increase the cost premium for blended fertilizers, which depresses corn economics relative to soybeans, which shift acreage, tightens corn supply, raises ethanol input costs, feeds through to transportation costs, which raises the delivered price of fertilizer to remote farms, reducing application rates, lowering yields, tightening grain markets, raising food import bills to developing nations, which worsens sovereign debt dynamics, which reduces the fiscal capability for fertilizer subsidies, which further depresses application rates of said fertilizer. The system is reflexive. It feeds on itself, and the feedback loops compound across time scales, all right, that span from days to years. In short, India, Bangladesh, in Egypt are going to experience severe food shortages. American food supply will be constricted as well, but within margins not leading to starvation. So again, I say as I always do when I read something so sunny and cheerful, all right, buy food, buy medicines, and always, always, always buy ammunition. All right, go ahead, Todd. China. You know, you're absolutely right on that. We have all seen The Martian. And speaking of that, and then I'll come to you, Agent Farmer. I went to go see another movie this weekend. What was it called? Project Hail Mary, I think. Gotta be honest with you, it had two little woke things in it that I despised, but they were minimal. And they self-corrected one of them, actually both of them. So it's an entertaining 2.5 hours. And so Hollywood actually put out a movie that didn't make me want to puke when I left the theater. Go ahead, Agent Farmer. Eric, can I ask you a question? I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm not. I just want to ask him a question. My understanding is that you're right in that if we use natural fertilizer, which we will still get a yield of crops, but it will not be. And again, I'm not arguing what is best for overall long term, but I'm saying it's an initial 10 to 20% drop in production if you don't use artificial fertilizers. Is that correct or incorrect? And Southern, I see the thumbs down. Am I wrong? This is not something I know about. Right. Okay. Well, again, that was my next question. I mean, you, farmers want to make money as much as they can. So is it cheaper and easier, or is it? I mean, there has to be some economic incentive. Okay. No, I. No, you're not wrong about that. So, do you? I mean, again, am I sounding too much like Chicken Little here, or am I sounding a good morning? I mean, have you seen? Because I know Southern, you buy the groceries for your home. Have you seen the price increase that I talked about, the 5 to 10% increase? Yep. Wow.
Holy crap.
Yeah, I mean, again, that's we just hosted a party, and I had a little sticker shock, and always, I mean, just your standard Americana hamburgers, hot dogs, potato salad, and other stuff, and we saw that. Brian, I just saw your message saying that it's about profit again, so it always is, and that's the way our system's designed. I just, I wish we could make it a little better. Go ahead, Dr. A. Okay. All right. Now, again, why wouldn't they do that? But I mean, I'm going to look for anything I can do to cut costs. I mean, as an airline pilot, I always look for the altitudes with less winds to save fuel. I mean, you always look for shortcuts if you could get them. You do everything you can to make your operation as efficient as possible. So why wouldn't they be doing this? Go ahead, Southern. All right, so on that note, then I'll come to you, Southern. I bought seeds a couple of years ago prior to the COVID nonsense, and I specifically looked for non GMO seeds and seeds that could replicate themselves. How long do seeds actually last? All right, cold area, dark, inside. Okay, good. Good to hear. What about you? Okay. Well, we haven't had a war like that in a long time, and I don't think the government has asked us to do that. Yeah, no, you're not wrong. Okay, but again, the government has not said to the American people to go ahead and start growing your food because they don't want to alarm us. Go ahead, Southern. Right. I Southern, I don't know. I mean, it said that we've got enough for ourselves, but I don't know that these developing nations have the fertilizer they need at the time that the biological cycle requires them to be fertilized. Again, the math isn't mathing at what I said, or isn't mathing at. Okay. So you think that they're lying to create a crisis, or you think that I'm going to call it minimizing the crisis. I understand that, but you're saying the math isn't mathing, and I'm asking because I don't know what direction it isn't mathing. Is it mathing on the side of it's not going to be as bad, or it's going to be worse? Don't know. Well, I mean, again, I just said that we've got 65 to 75% of the fertilizer we consume, and it didn't talk anything about supplies. It just says that our market, 65 to 75% of it is domestic. It doesn't say, okay, okay. I'm not going to argue with you. I don't trust a single thing the U.S. government says. You know that. Even, President Trump, I trust him, but his advisors, I don't trust at all. All right, let's. Correct. I mean, again, look at his do nothing, Department of Justice. Look at Susie Wiles, who's basically disenfranchised grassroots Republicans across the state of Texas. I'm with you on that. All right, let's go back to war for a second, and let's talk about uppity Europeans. All right, they're at it again. Recently, President Trump made a joke when the Japanese Prime Minister came to visit, and it was a funny joke about them being sneaky or sneak attacking. The bottom line, we just kind of moved over for that. But, we dropped 2 atomic bombs on Japan. And they're better allies to us than these ungrateful Europeans that just sit there and spit in our face over and over again. And I'm exhausted with it. So the coming caliphate of Spain, I guess it's a reconquista, that's happening, all right? Because we've seen that if you blaspheme the prophet, which I'm doing right now, he's a pedophile, all right? You can go to jail in Spain. That's you can go to jail in Britain probably for that as well, and also in Germany. Where's their commitment to free speech? Japan, at least, is standing strong. Japan is leading the way on how to deal with Islam. Look at what they've just done. All right, but given worsening U.S.-Spanish relations over our pro-Israel policies, I don't know that it's necessarily pro-Israel as much as why can't we deal with a country that has been shouting death to America since 1979? All right, Spain has fully shuttered its airspace to U.S. planes involved in attacks in Iran. Okay, how about we just fully shutter our economy and everything else to Spain? We can play this game, buddy. Okay, we're the big gorilla, we've got the big stick, and you're about to get bopped in the head with it, I hope. Now, Spain's defense minister, Margarita Robles, announced on Monday we don't authorize either the use of military bases or the use of airspace for actions related to the war in Iran. The Prime Minister, Pedro Sanchez, has also confirmed we've denied the United States the use of Rota and Marone bases for this illegal war. Rota is an important base because it's where our tankers land when they're ferrying planes across the pond, which is what we call the Atlantic. All flight plans involving operations in Iran have been rejected, all of them, including those for refueling aircraft, with the exception of emergency landings, have been canceled. This means no U.S. flyovers by tankers, aircraft, or bombers will be approved. There's an island called Gibraltar that I think would make a great state. Just tell the Spanish, we're going to do what we want, and you don't like it. And if you don't like it, too bad. Build aircraft carriers, build thermonuclear missiles. Until then, shut up. This isn't Ferdinand and Isabella. All right, you can't build an armada to sail to the United States. We're the ones with the armada. All right, ultimately, this is another break in the NATO-American rift. It means that American planes are forced to bypass a NATO territory Now, honestly, we usually fly through France. I'm just, in the times that I deployed from England to the Middle East, I flew through France. I don't think that's any big significant secret, considering the one time they denied us the ability to fly through France when we raided Libya, we accidentally bombed the French embassy. It happened only twice. Just quoting a line from a song there. Now, President Trump has threatened to cut trade with Spain and other punitive measures. When are we going to start getting serious about the Islamic Caliphate of Europe? I mean, I'm tired of them. I'm exhausted with them. Oh, you're right. Okay, again, what is not captured? And I'm seeing all these posts on X about, oh, Britain's standing up. I'll believe you're standing up when I see deportations, when I see British ICE getting rid of all of the Muslims that have invaded your land. Until then, it's just a lot of chatter designed to sell merchandise. I don't know about you guys, but my feed is being flooded with True Brit t-shirts. Give me a break. Okay, a t-shirt or posting about it on X isn't going to get it done. It's kind of like these No Kings rallies. Okay, we don't have a king. We haven't had a king. We still don't have a king. Great troll by Trump. But again, I got to be honest with you. I enjoy his trolls. I really do. And Tap's got a great Trump troll voice as well. But I want some substance here. All right, I want some policy. All right, I want to see things actually change. And I'm not getting it. And I'm getting frustrated. Now, I'm not taking my ball and going home. I'm digging in and working harder. All right. Yes, it hurt to lose an election. So what did I do? I got on the committee for Republican Party priorities and injected all of my campaign promises into the Republican Party priorities. I'm trying to do what I can as an American to make our country better, and I want you all to do the same thing. All right. You guys have anything to say about Europe? I mean, do you think we should just pull all of our stuff home, Southern? What are your thoughts? And then I'll come to you, Tap. You know, I'm with you. I'm tired of the world spitting in our face when they basically hid behind our nuclear umbrella and undermined us at every opportunity since 1945. We kept them free of the communists. And what are the thanks we get for it? As far as I'm concerned, Spain should be kissing our tail. All right, go ahead, Tap. That's all you're gonna do. Okay, you got it. When my 12 o'clock shows up, just walk in your Okay, that's it. Tap, love it, love it, love it. Did you guys see that absolute legend of a pilot that was flying over Los Angeles with the banner that said, "Not your king, but your daddy," or something like that? That was just genius. Genius. All right, I'm going to turn it over to you now, Dr. A. I have bloviated enough for the day, so tell us about the TSA standoff, please, ma'am.
Yes, and that's why I said not your king, but I am your daddy.
That's right.
You're welcome. Okay, so I'm talking about the TSA standoff. So many of you heard some of what's been going on, but ultimately, this has been a total game of chicken on the part of the Democrats and the consumers through it. Chuck Schumer, Democrats play chicken with Trump and the American people over the refusal to fund the TSA through the Department of Homeland Security funding authorization. So, in background, again, the Department of Homeland Security, or DHS, includes agencies such as restrictions on operations, oversight, or policy shifts. Again, this is immigration. It falls under the federal, and they're trying to change it. So in response to reported instances involving ICE agents in various locations, Schumer kept repeated Democrats will send critical Homeland Security functions, but we will not give a blank check to Trump's lawless and deadly immigration militia without reform. Last I checked, even Californians want stronger immigration laws, so keep missing the mark. Democrats push for bills that funded TSA, Coast Guard, FEMA, CISA, etc., while excluding or limiting ICE CCP funding. They attempted multiple clean or partial funding measures for non-enforcement parts of Asia, and accused Republicans of blocking them, claiming 6 blocks in one 24-hour period at one point. Schumer praised his caucus for standing united and holding the line with no wavering and no backing down. House Republicans and the Trump administration insisted on full funding for all DHS components, including robust support for ICE and Border Patrol to continue immigration enforcement priorities. They viewed Democratic demands as an attempt to defund or hamstring border security efforts. House Speaker Mike Johnson and others accused Democrats of playing a dangerous game and prioritizing politics over national security and worker pay. The House passed measures for a full year or stopgap funding that included everything. Both sides rejected the other proposals, leading to mutual accusations of obstruction. The standoff lasted roughly 6 weeks, okay, as of the end of March. And you all heard over the weekend, airport chaos was going on all last week through spring break. Unpaid TSA officers, which were tens of thousands, led to high call-outs or absentee rates of 10-12% nationally. Higher at some airports like JFK, Atlanta, and Houston. Hundreds of resignations, 400 to 500 resignations were reported, and wait times stretching 2 to 4 hours. But smaller airports warned of potential shutdowns. So President Trump declared an emergency situation at airports and signed an executive order, a memorandum directing DHS security Mark Wayne Bowman to redirect available funds tied to prior legislation like the 2025 Big Beautiful Bill to ensure that TSA officers were receiving pay. And of course, you know, he allowed ICE to go into many of those airports to assist TSA in their duties. Media, in an effort to highlight chaos, went into their airports to interview travelers in these long lines, and travelers resoundingly thanked Trump and ICE for their support in the airport and helping to reduce the wait times. They called out Chuck Schumer by name and said it was his fault that this was all occurred. So early last Friday, the Senate passed unanimously the executive measure funding some of DHS. It did not fund ICE and certain Border Patrol enforcement operations, which the Democrats considered a win. So House Republicans, again, back to the House, they rejected the Senate deal, revolted against it with Trump's backing, and instead passed their own stopgap bill for DHS funding. So Speaker Johnson called the Senate approach unacceptable. Schumer immediately labeled the House bill dead on arrival in the Senate. Lawmakers headed into recess without a final resolution, prolonging uncertainty for remaining unfunded DHS functions. Both sides claimed the other was responsible. Democrats said they held firm. The situation remains fluid post-recess, which they're not back and voting until Monday, April 18th. Sorry, 13th. My bad. Monday, April 13th, with potential for further votes or compromises. Impacts on travel may ease somewhat due to TSA pay orders, but full resolution depends on Congress bridging the immigration enforcement side. People, Congress is broken. We need to get our legislators voting the way the people want, not the way their corporate funders want them to vote. People want immigration, period.
I totally agree with you. We see that on a smaller level. We see that at the state level. We're seeing it again. I mean, the problem I have with this is, where is the executive action? All right, so if I'm president, what I'm doing at this point is I am shutting down everything that goes to every Democratic senator's home states. And I'm taking that funding. You know, I'm going to pick something that Chuck Schumer's particularly crowed about, some type of funding that he brought home to New York, and I'm going to kill all the funding to that, and I'm going to take it, I'm going to fund ICE operations in his state. And I'm going to do that across every one of these states. I need a president that is going out and pushing the boundaries on this over and over again because I'm tired of it. I'm tired of Democratic obstructionism. All right, that's all they are. And again, we have 435 leeches that can't pass a budget. Why are we in this crisis? Continuing resolution after continuing resolution when they can't do their basic job. I mean, I'm convinced that all Congress does is sit there and generate sound bites to get elected. We can't even get Justice Boasberg to be impeached when he is just the poster child of judicial tyranny in this country. And why can't we do it? Because the Republican in charge of the House Judiciary Committee won't do it. It is all a big uniparty, and we are all being played when it comes to the House and the Senate. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me that you have some faith that the system's actually going to change. Congressional candidate Griffith, go ahead, ma'am. Tell me I'm wrong.
Well, you're not wrong. It is broken. They are playing politics instead of taking care of the people. But we, the people, have to stand there to do their job or not get paid or lose their seats. And that part we never held fast on. We, the people, have to hold them accountable. They haven't passed a balanced budget in what, 30 years?
Okay, hold them accountable how?
Your point about the reaction that you mentioned, I just want to say, I get it. We want to react, but our president acknowledges that he is president for all people, even those that want to hate him, and he's not reacting by harming Democrat states, right? When he put out calls to help the different airports, he did help airports.
Oh, no question.
And the people see it. They're seeing through the game.
Okay, I got that, but the people also want ICE operation to continue, in my opinion. Again, we can't get a legitimate poll on that. And they're trying to stop that. Why? Because they need those illegals to vote in the midterms. All right, and again, we're seeing John Thune run out the clock on the SAVE Act. We're seeing, what's-her-face, Bondi, who won't do a damn thing to bring justice back to the country. I mean, she's running out the clock. All of D.C. is running out the clock on President Trump, and I'm getting very, very frustrated by it. Go ahead, Southern. Yes, ma'am. Amen to that. It, oh, God, I love that so much. Can you imagine Maxine Waters working a TSA line? Ah. They probably already are, but that I digress for a second. Or can you imagine who's that really fat guy? Jerry Nadler. I mean, with his pants up right below his neckline. Oh my God! I need to warn you, sir. How can you even move your arm, you big Pillsbury doughboy? I mean, it's just retarded. Southern, we're past runtime now normally, but I've got Nick gone. So here's your warning there, guy, to start getting ready to shut the show down. But Southern, what do you have going on in your world? What are you researching? You know, what's been the topics on your shows lately? Better that a millstone be thrown on their neck and then thrown into the sea than to harm one of the little ones. Speaking of that, I don't know if you guys saw it, but there was a student in Frisco, Texas, that had that biblical quote, and forgive me for my sword drill is rusty, for not knowing the exact verse, but he wore that t-shirt, and he got kicked, or he got in-school suspension for wearing a shirt with a Bible verse. Now, Frisco ISD probably wouldn't do anything if he was wearing a hijab or spouting Surah 9:5 about killing the infidel. It's unreal. I mean, the anti-Christian bias I'm seeing out of Christians in government has got to stop. And I've written a letter already calling for this principal to be fired immediately. Fired immediately. I am tired of the war on Christianity. I want it stopped yesterday, which is why I'm working as hard as I can to see that Rod Vilhauer is elected mayor of my city, and that I'm looking forward to going down to convention. Speaking of that, in June, months away, but I'm going to go back to the reckoning every day during the week, and I've already asked some people to come on as guests of the show. There is a particular lady. She basically, I'm going to call it, she vets all proposed candidates in our county. Her name is Dionne Starnes, and she is. I'm gonna give her the status of elder stateswoman of the Republican Party, and I'm telling you, 4 hours of being asked, well, you say you believe this, how much do you believe it? Wow. Go through, what are your core beliefs as a human? It was honestly enjoyable to me because it harkened back and you realize how much of what you actually believe is biblically based or is biblically unsound. And so it was a great interview with her, but I've asked her to come on the show and walk me through the Republican Party of Texas when it went through Bush, through what it is now and where she thinks it's going to go. She is one of these women that is just brilliant. I mean, when you're talking to an intellect, when I say brilliant, I don't think she could fly an airplane like I can, but I mean, she understands politics as well as I understand an A-10. That's the best compliment I can give her. But yeah, I'm looking forward to her actually being on the show, but that won't be till June. All right, I'm going to wrap up with 3 quotes. And, there are a couple of movies coming out that I'm really excited to go see. One of them comes out next week. It's called The Great Awakening. And it's about the awakening which led to the American Revolution. Really looking forward to that one. And there's another one that's coming out July 3rd from Angel Studios, the makers of The Chosen, and again, a patriotic organization called Young Washington, and I'm really looking forward to that. But I want to read a couple of Washington quotes, actually 3, not a couple. So, number 1 is, be courteous to all, but intimate with few. Let those few be well tried before you give them your confidence. True friendship is a plant of slow growth and must undergo and withstand the shocks of adversity before it is entitled to the appellation. And again, just wisdom from the father of our country. All right, the next one. A free people ought not only to be armed, but disciplined, to which end a uniform and well-digested plan is requisite. And their safety and interests require that they should promote such manufactories as tend to render them independent of others for essential, particularly military supplies. What he's basically saying there is you ought to be able to build your own tank. I mean, essentially, if you're carried to the extreme. But, I think the importance of being able to stand on your own militarily against the government even was important to Washington. The last is the consideration that human happiness and moral duty are inseparably connected will always continue to prompt me to promote the progress of the former by inculcating the practice of the latter. Meaning, if I act morally and I do my duty, it will lead to human happiness. Got to be honest with you, folks. Even if you took the religion out of the Bible, that's basically what the book says. If you act morally and dutifully, then human happiness will be advanced. I believe that with all of my heart. Again, just 3 great quotes from the real commander-in-chief, the first commander-in-chief of the Continental Army, the man that built the government of the United States. Now, again, I think he would turn over in his grave right now if he saw some of the excesses and some of the things that are hurting us from a liberty perspective. But again, we cannot stress how great this guy was. So anytime I hear some liberal clown talking about white slave owners, they can go to hell. Without George Washington, the world would be a much, much worse place. All right, that is all I have for the day. Are you ready to wrap it up? All right, go ahead and kill the show. Southern or Dr. A, do you guys have anything else? And Iron Patriot, I tried to pass you a mic to advertise your show tonight, So I know you, Southern has her show at 9 p.m. Iron Patriot, go to his page and his feed. I believe it's 7 p.m. Eastern Time is when he has his show. So go to that one. And of course, Dr. Manus, Colonel Manus and Shell on at 2 p.m. Go ahead, Dr. A. Nice. Sounds great. All right, everybody, thank you again for paying attention, and we're going to go ahead and wrap the show now. God bless each and every one of you. I hope you had a great Palm Sunday. I hope you celebrate Good Friday, and our Savior is